Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When you're sitting on the couch scrolling through endless options for a soundbar, the biggest fear is that you'll spend a lot of money on something that sounds great on paper but just doesn't move the needle in your living room. That hesitation is real, especially when the promise is 5.1.4 channel immersive audio and you're not sure how much of that will actually translate to clearer dialogue, deeper bass, or a feeling that the action is really happening around you. In this review, I'm going to walk through the everyday experience of the Sennheiser AMBEO Soundbar, point out where it shines, where it falls short, and help you decide if it's the right upgrade for your movie nights. First, let's talk about what a soundbar is supposed to do in the first place. Most people buy a soundbar to replace the thin, tinny speakers that come built into a TV, hoping for a clearer picturetta sound match and a little extra punch for movies and games. The AMBEO steps up the ambition. It claims a full 5.1.4 Atmos and DTS-X setup with 5 dedicated tweeters and a subwoofer output that can reach down to 30 Hz. That's a lot of hardware squeezed into a single cabinet, and the promise is that you'll get studio-grade sound without having to mount separate speakers around the room. In practice, the biggest difference you'll notice is in dialogue clarity. The 5 tweeters are positioned to aim sound toward your ears, and reviewers who have tested the unit consistently mention that mid-range voices sit up front and stay intelligible even during fast-paced action scenes. If you've ever struggled to hear a whisper in a crowded living room, this bar tends to pull those lines forward, which is a genuine upgrade over the average TV speaker or even many 2-channel bars. The built-in equalizer also lets you fine-tune the balance, so if you're a fan of a slightly brighter vocal profile, you can dial that in without needing an external processor. Bass performance is where the optional subwoofer becomes a deciding factor. The bar itself can produce a respectable thump down to 30 Hz, but the low end is still modest compared to a dedicated sub that you'd find in a full surround system. In a small to medium-sized room, the bar's internal bass may be enough to feel the rumble in an explosion without overwhelming the space. However, in a larger living room, or if you're the type who wants that floor-shaking feel during a superhero fight, you'll likely need to add the optional Sennheiser AMBEO sub. The wired subwoofer pre-out makes that connection straightforward, but it does add an extra piece of hardware and an additional cost to consider. Surround effect is another area where the AMBEO tries to differentiate itself. With a 5.1.4 configuration, you get 2 upward-firing speakers that bounce sound off the ceiling to create height channels, plus rear channels that are simulated through digital processing. In a room that's roughly the size of a typical family living room, the height effect is noticeable. You can actually feel sounds moving over you, like rain or a helicopter flying overhead. The system automatically calibrates to your room's dimensions, which helps in spaces that aren't perfectly square. That said, the calibration is based on an internal microphone and a set of preset curves. It won't be as precise as a true multi-speaker setup with individual speaker placement, but for most consumers it strikes a good balance between ease of use and immersive feel. Connectivity is a part of the daily experience that people often overlook until they're trying to stream a movie. The AMBEO includes built-in Wi-Fi, so you can pull content from services that support AirPlay, Spotify Connect, or other DLNA-compatible apps without needing a separate streaming box. If you already have a smart TV, the bar can act as a hub for all your audio, and you can switch between TV audio and music streaming with a simple press on the remote. Speaking of the remote, it's a fairly typical infrared controller with a few extra buttons for Atmos mode and EQ presets. The layout is clear, but the learning curve is there. You'll need to spend a minute or two getting used to the Atmos on-off toggle, which is not always obvious at first glance. Now, who should actually consider spending on this bar? If you're a movie enthusiast who watches a lot of new releases, especially on streaming platforms that support Dolby Atmos, the AMBEO gives you a way to experience those tracks without wiring up a full speaker array. It also appeals to gamers who want positional audio that makes a difference in competitive shooters. The bar's ability to adapt to different room sizes makes it a versatile choice for anyone with a living room that's neither a cramped studio nor a sprawling home theater. Finally, if you already have a decent TV and a decent Wi-Fi network, the bar's wireless streaming will integrate smoothly, meaning you won't need to buy an extra receiver or a separate sound system. On